right, Stephani Masotti joins me now. Anchor CTV News at 6 for us in Windsor, Ontario. Stephani, it's great to see you as always.
It's great to see you as well, Angie.
This cold case, you know, from what, 23 or so years ago, can take us back, if you can, a bit in terms of what exactly happened. And now, of course, what investigators were able to do, what they used in order to identify now this woman's killer.
Okay, so Carol Christio was found stabbed to death inside of her bathroom in Windsor in the year 2000. At the time, her killer unknown. 23 years later, as you mentioned, Windsor police say DNA evidence and genetic genealogy helped crack the case. But during that time period, police say solving the case didn't necessarily mean releasing the name due to privacy concerns until now. So police saying after a new chief and new administration, they made the decision that it was vital for them to name the person who committed this murder. That person is Robert Lutotsky. He was an acquaintance of her and was one of the last people to have seen her alive. He died, though, in 2012, so he never paid for this crime. So how did police figure this all out? Genetic genealogy now allows law enforcement to use crime scene DNA and access the databases of services like 23andMe and Ancestry.com to compare samples. But this raises a lot of questions for some researchers. One in particular here in Windsor says many people aren't aware what's at stake when they submit a sample swab for testing.
Right.
So you might be okay giving your DNA to a private company, but you would also be submitting that of your parents, grandparents, siblings, cousins. So the researcher goes on to say that rules and regulations need to catch up, but she does not discredit the closure that's brought in cases where genetic genealogy has identified a prime suspect, as it did in this case, Angie.
Yeah, I think you make an interesting point here in terms of there is a fine line. On the one hand, of course, you do have these cold cases, and we know that DNA can play a huge role in trying to track things, you know, track things back to then finding who is responsible. But then there is also the question of privacy and you know, what lines you might be crossing there. In this case, though, I mean, my goodness, 23 years, the family finally getting some sense of closure here. How are they reacting?
Well, she was 55 years old, and at the time she was a mother of two. And after her murderer's identity was released, one of her daughters did release a statement thanking police for all of their actions. And she does say that closure is always important. And, quote, although the pain of losing my mother will never go away, myself and my family are a little closer to reaching that goal. So a very emotional time, Angie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can only imagine, of course, you know, for the family, for the kids, indeed wanting to know what happened to their mother who was responsible, and finally getting a little bit of that closure there. But my understanding is that the investigation isn't officially closed. Police are still saying any other information anyone can provide, they're open to that. Any witnesses that are still willing to come forward, they're open to that. So where are things standing right now regarding the investigation?
Usually that is the case, but from my understanding, this case is closed. No other witnesses, so one more cold case solved.
Okay, well,